Jimmy Butler has been suspended for 2 more games by the Heat for multiple instances of what the team was calling conduct that was detrimental to the group.
At every trade deadline, there's basically only 3 goals that teams are trying to reach. The first goal is simple. If your team is in legitimate contention for the title, you stay put and don't do anything. If you're also a young, rebuilding team, you also stay put and ride the wave because there's no rush to make any changes yet. The second goal is, if your team is a playoff team that wants to contend, but they still need a few improvements to the roster, they'll go out and look for that role player, who might not be a sexy or fancy name, but it's exactly what they need. Think of PJ Tucker when he got traded to the Bucks at the 2021 deadline. Tucker proceeded to be a major piece in helping them win the championship by providing a level of toughness and defense to push them over the top.
Here's Tucker from the corner and hits the 3.
And that is his sweet spot.
The third goal is directed towards teams that have been just barely a playoff team, a lower seed or aging team that should really be trying to blow it up, because there's no real chance they could compete in the playoffs. In this video, let's take a look at this specific situation. Teams with stars who should honestly be traded, because it's clear they aren't the guy they need. Yet their teams are, for some reason, overly optimistic that they could compete, when in reality, they should start over and blow it up, so their fans can stop suffering from watching this mediocrity. Zach LaVine. Every year when I make a video like this about stars who need a change of scenery, I feel like Zach LaVine is always on that list. But in the past, he's had his fair share of struggles staying on the court, as numerous nagging injuries have hindered his game and it looked like he was on the downswing of his career. This time, however, there are serious implications if the Bulls do not trade him. This might be their last chance. For one, LaVine is having arguably the greatest season of his career in terms of shooting the ball.
Lob up top for Zach LaVine!
Go get it, young man.
Here comes LaVine for 30 points, a 6-straight game!
He's shooting 7 threes a game on a ridiculous 45% from 3. LaVine has always been a lethal 3-point shooter, but this is ridiculous, especially considering how much defensive attention he gets, with DeRozan no longer there. It's obvious LaVine has turned it up to another gear that nobody thought he ever had. But at the same time, his value is at an all-time high. If the Bulls traded him this time last year, they would have gotten like nothing back in return. Now, with his stock skyrocketing, and the Bulls still stuck right outside the playoffs, the 9th or 10th seed, for yet another season, there's no better time to pull the trigger. Plus, besides LaVine, just look at the other assets the Bulls have, and calling them assets is generous. Lonzo Ball's contract expires soon, and he basically did nothing for his entire time here. Kobe White is on a team-friendly contract, but the jury's still out if he's gonna improve any further. Patrick Williams is on a horrendous contract compared to his production, so he's like impossible to move. Vooch had a bounce-back year, but there's very few teams that could fit him onto their roster. LaVine is the only valuable trade chip, a player who's heavily desired by several playoff teams, and he could fit on any of them. Just because he doesn't need the ball in his hands, he's not ball dominant. He's just as good at sliding into the Klay Thompson role, running off screens to catch and shoot. The Bulls should have probably entertained the idea of trading him back when he was actually making All-Star teams. But now, with his value being higher than it's been in years, they could get so much back in return. A package that could kickstart their rebuild. While the team does have the majority of their future first-round picks, they also don't have an exorbitant number of them from other teams, because they haven't really made any trades. By trading LaVine, with the way he's been playing, he'll certainly fetch several first-rounders in the open market. The rumors are out there that him, along with Vooch, are some of the hottest commodities in the trade market. With the Bulls getting plenty of offers and getting closer to blowing it up, this could be the year they're both gone. It should be the year they're both gone. If they save LaVine for yet another season and go through their tradition of losing in the play-ins, it's a huge gamble, because you never know what his value will be a year from now, especially with his risk of injury. Julius Randle. Yes, my favorite former New York Knick. Well, not really, but because I've watched Randall so often when he was a Knick, I've quietly followed the Timberwolves more often than I should have. My two main takeaways are this. 1. Randall is basically the exact same player he is when he was in New York. And 2. He does not fit in the starting lineup, and he's honestly better off coming in from the bench. Except his ego would not allow that.
On the run, Randall, attack mode on James, he flips it up, no!
If you compare Cat and Randall without looking at the stats, the most visible difference is how quickly Cat makes decisions. When he gets a pass, it's like boom, boom. He passes it again, or he makes a move instantly, or he shoots it, which you're fine with because he's the best shooting big in the league. He doesn't need to think about what to do with the ball. He knows what to do immediately.
On pool light. Now trying to adopt to being a point guard.
Towns on the catch and the flush.
Randall, on the other hand, it's like when he gets the ball, he has a million different thoughts going on in his head. Like, first, he looks to see if there's someone to pass it to. Then he thinks about doing something, then he tries to do it, and then tries to do something else, and it either works or it doesn't work. And all of this happens in the span of like 10 seconds, because he spends too long trying to make a decision. His shot quality is also far tougher than Cat's. Another aspect of the game that heavily favors Cat is his rebounding prowess. Over the years, his rebounding got overshadowed by sharing the floor with Gobert, but on the Knicks, he's third in the league in box-outs per game, and he leads the league in rebounding percentage, meaning he grabs a ludicrous 35% of all available defensive rebounds when he's on the floor. Randall, however, is below average in both box-outs and rebounding. This has become more noticeable for Wolves fans, because they took Cat's rebounding for granted. And of course, the shooting diff, that's not even close.
Gobert on a kick, Randall open look, can't hit the three.
With Randall being the primary candidate on the Wolves trade block, they need to get rid of him if they want to get back to the Western Conference Finals and reclaim their status as a contender. The funny part is, Randall was never in their long-term plans to begin with. The Wolves basically made the trade because they did not want to continue paying Cat. So they essentially traded him for Randall's contract, which expires in the summer of 2025, if he doesn't take his player option. Though this actually gives his contract value in the trade market. The fact that it's about to expire means whichever team ends up with him, they won't have him for long. For the Wolves, this is a chance for them to shake up their team. Perhaps with the disgruntled players available in the trade market, there could be somebody making a return to Minnesota. Well, that would be something. Brandon Ingram. In a previous video I made about the Pelicans, if you haven't watched it, check it out on my channel. But you know the story of Brandon Ingram. Arriving to New Orleans in the notorious Anthony Davis trade, yet despite his early rise into stardom, injuries have been the bane of his existence. Heck, if Zion wasn't there, Ingram's injuries would be more in the spotlight. He's missed an absurd number of games in his last 4 seasons, and he also rejected several extensions the Pelicans have tried to offer. According to Shams, he reported, quote, "When you think about the last couple of off seasons, Brandon Ingram turned down an extension of $50 million per year in 2023, and an extension of about $40 million from what I'm told this past offseason. I expected him to have a robust market between now and the deadline." Since the Pelicans could not agree to a deal with Ingram, which, rejecting $50 million per year for a player of his caliber, it's ridiculous. He's not even worth that much. But maybe Ingram has one step out the door already. Maybe he doesn't want to stay in New Orleans. If that's the case, the Pelicans need to trade him, like right now. Ingram's current deal expires in the summer of 25, and while he's been in trade rumors here and there for several years now, this is the last time the Pelicans can actually trade him. Of course, the downside is, once again, Ingram is injured. In fact, he missed 2 months with an ankle sprain. How does that even happen? There must be something going on that the public doesn't know, and maybe the Pelicans don't want the public to know, because it could tank whatever value Ingram has left on the trade market. On the bright side, there is potential in getting a good deal for him. At 27 years of age, Ingram is at the prime of his career, theoretically, and when he does play, he's great. Not superstar level great, but solid, all-star caliber. a small forward who can score in many facets. Of all players on this list, Ingram has the most potential to still get better, whereas everyone else is on the wrong side of 30. Bradley Beal. I'm sure you've heard everyone talk about Beal. To start, the no-trade clause in Beal's contract makes any deal much harder because he gets the choice of where he wants to go. As of right now, at the time I'm making this video, the Bucks are the frontrunner to trade for Bradley Beal. Few teams have shown interest in the former All-NBA shooting guard, making over $50 million per year with a heavy burden to carry. But the Bucks, surprisingly, have a legit reason to acquire him, and they're probably the only contender who could benefit from a Beal trade, for 3 key reasons. I know it might sound crazy, but bear with me here. First, Chris Middleton, their longtime shooting guard, has been in a downward spiral for the past several years. His ankle problems in particular have sidelined him for so many games, and he's clearly a step slower than he used to be. His defense, once renowned as one of the league's most tenacious defenders, has fallen off a cliff due to his ankles being completely shot. He can't keep up with even the most average players anymore. At this stage of their careers, Beal is younger, and despite his own ankle problems, he still moves much better than Middleton. Along with having a similar role, their shooting splits and the locations of where they shoot are very similar. So if a trade were to happen with these two, Beal could slot into Middleton's role. Second, the salaries. The Bucks, unlike most other contenders, have a handful of dead contracts on their team. By that, I mean players who are being paid to not do much of anything, like Pat Connaughton, $9 million per year, yet he's barely producing anymore. The Bucks are more than willing to give up several players who have zero impact on their team to help them match salaries to get Beal. Now listen, everyone knows Beal is severely overpaid at $50 million per year. But Middleton at $31 million per year is also severely overpaid, and he's been even less available than Beal. With a player option, Middleton's contract might be expiring and may not be re-signed. It's not much of an upgrade to get Beal, but it's still a slight upgrade. The third reason, they desperately need to shake it up. The Bucks, ever since they won their championship, it's been an absolute disaster. With a myriad of injuries and bad luck, and not making moves until it's too late, perhaps they felt a need to make a big splash and find some way to inject a different look on this team.
Got both teams welcoming back injured players. Oh, stopping out of time. Beal! Oh, that was sweet.
For the Suns, the minute they acquired Beal, we all knew it was going to end like this. With him obviously not living up to his contract and then having the final decision of where he wants to go next. But if a trade for him does go through, they successfully accomplish their goal and it lifts such a huge burden off their shoulders. With a strong start to the season that subsequently led to a drastic fall-off with Kevin Durant's absence, they too need some way to rejuvenate their team. And getting rid of this massive burden, it's a great start. Jimmy Butler. Oh, the man of the season. Ever since Jimmy's beef with Pat Riley started, he's accumulated suspensions, missed flights, missed practices, a complete disregard for his teammates, who, at this point, it seems like they're ready to move on. Is it a mere coincidence that Butler's exit from every team he's been on has been filled with drama? Or is he the guy who actively seeks that drama? Because that's who he is.
So we'll let people keep talking like they know everything, like they have all the answers. And then sooner or later, the whole truth will come out. The whole truth will come out. The whole truth will come out.
Around mid-December, he requested a trade. But when the Heat organization told him no, Riley made it clear he was not going to be strong-armed and pushed around. But then Butler doubled down and tripled down on his trade demands. He started skipping practices, missing flights, icing out his teammates, and all that stuff. So the Heat were basically forced to trade him, or at least shop him around. Also, when Butler came back from a 7-game suspension, he stopped caring altogether. He barely shoots the ball now, his minutes have decreased, and he's completely passive on offense. The Miami Heat have the exceptional honor to witness the complete lack of effort from the star who gave their franchise so much. And yet again, Butler will exit another team by burning every bridge imaginable. It's one thing to have beef with the organization, it's another thing when even your own teammates don't like you anymore. The same teammates you went to battle with year after year in the playoffs are also fed up with your antics. Hey, at least the Heat found out that Tyler Hero could take over the mantle as the guy of the franchise. Butler is a ticking time bomb that needs to go before he takes the Heat down with him. And those were 5 NBA stars who need to be traded, or else the rest of the season for their respective teams will be in shambles. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. Do you think any of these players should not be traded? And why do you think that? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.